The quantum resonance detector's alarm jolted Dr. Ethan Parker from his late-night calculations. After 3 years of monitoring deep space signals at the Helios Array in Antarctica, he'd grown accustomed to false positives. But this signal was different, a perfect, repeating pattern that defied natural explanation. Through the reinforced windows of his research station, the aurora australis painted the sky in sheets of green and purple, a reminder of Earth's magnetic field that had protected humanity for millennia. The same field that was now being disturbed by something massive entering the atmosphere. "Terminal, track anomaly," Ethan commanded, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. The object's trajectory suggested a controlled descent, but its speed was far too precise for any known spacecraft. As director of xenophysics at the International Space Research Initiative, he'd studied every documented meteor impact and space phenomenon. This was something entirely new. The facility's AI highlighted a landing zone just 2 kilometers from the station. Ethan suited up in his Arctic gear, checking the seals twice before venturing into the -60-degree night. The object's glow pierced through the darkness, casting prismatic light across the ice sheet. As he approached, his instruments began registering impossible readings. The craft, he was certain now it was a vessel, seemed to bend reality around itself, distorting both light and gravity. Its hull shimmered like liquid starlight, flowing and shifting in patterns that challenged his understanding of physics. A section of the hull suddenly became transparent, revealing a figure inside. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. After decades of searching the stars, humanity's first contact was happening here, now, with him as the sole witness. The being that emerged was breathtaking. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, she, for something in her form suggested feminine characteristics, moved with impossible grace. Her body seemed composed of crystalline structures that caught and reflected light in ways that made her appear to be made of living diamonds. Where a human would have hair, coronas of energy danced and swirled, responding to unseen currents. But it was her eyes that captured Ethan's attention, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, each one containing what appeared to be swirling nebulae. They fixed upon him with an intensity that made him forget the bitter cold. "You are not what I expected to find on this world," she spoke, her voice bypassing his ears entirely and materializing directly in his mind. The sensation was disorienting but not unpleasant. "I could say the same," Ethan managed to respond, both verbally and, surprising himself, mentally. "I am Naira, archival guardian of the Celestial Concordat," she projected, her thought voice carrying undertones of what might have been amusement. "And you are?" "Dr. Ethan Parker, Director of Xenophysics, Earth's International Space Research Initiative." He paused, then added, "Though I'm guessing you didn't come all this way to meet me specifically." A ripple of what seemed like crystalline laughter emanated from her form. "Indeed not. I am a refugee, though perhaps not in the way you might imagine. I carry knowledge that could reshape or destroy civilizations. There are those who would." She suddenly staggered, her luminescence dimming. Ethan rushed forward without thinking, catching her as she stumbled. The moment his hands touched her crystalline form, a surge of energy passed between them. Images and sensations flooded his mind, vast libraries of ancient knowledge, star maps of uncharted regions, and secrets that defied comprehension. The neural transfer, it wasn't supposed to. Naira's thought voice grew weak. "By touching me in my vulnerable state, you've become entangled." "Entangled? What do you mean?" "In my culture, such a connection is sacred. The sharing of knowledge between minds, it is our most intimate bond." Her 3 eyes focused on him with renewed intensity. "You now carry a portion of the archives within you. By our most ancient laws, we are, what your language might call betrothed." Ethan's mind reeled. In the span of 10 minutes, he'd not only made first contact but had apparently become engaged to an alien librarian through quantum entanglement. There must be some way to reverse this. "The process is irreversible," she projected. "But that is now the least of our concerns. She gestured skyward with a crystalline hand. "Those who hunt me will have tracked my descent. When they arrive, they will find not only me but also you, now carrying portions of knowledge that could reshape the galaxy." The aurora above them seemed to ripple and distort, and Ethan's instruments began registering multiple approaching objects. Naira's pursuers had arrived sooner than expected. "Dr. Parker," she projected, her thought voice carrying both urgency and an unexpected warmth, "I apologize for involving you in this, but we must act quickly. Your world's safety may depend on what we do next." As the night sky filled with approaching ships, Ethan realized his quiet life of scientific research was about to become considerably more complicated. He looked at Naira, this impossible being who had literally dropped into his life and turned everything he knew upside down. Well, he thought back to her, surprising himself with his calm, "I always wanted to expand humanity's understanding of the universe. I just didn't expect it to happen quite like this." Another ripple of crystalline laughter, though tinged with concern. "You're taking this remarkably well for someone who just became psychically engaged to an alien fugitive." "Let's just say I'm trying to keep an open mind," Ethan responded, already leading her toward the research station. "Though I have to warn you, explaining this to my superiors is going to be interesting." Above them, the first ships began to breach the atmosphere, their arrival heralding the beginning of an adventure that would change not only their lives but the destiny of two civilizations. The aurora pulsed with new energy, nature itself seeming to acknowledge that something extraordinary was unfolding beneath its ethereal light. The Helios Array's conference room had never felt so crowded. 24 of Earth's highest-ranking officials sat around the table, their faces illuminated by the holographic displays showing Naira's ship and the fleet now hovering in high orbit. Through the windows, the Antarctic dawn painted the sky in shades of gold, a stark contrast to the tension filling the room. "Let me get this straight, Dr. Parker," General Rebecca Martinez said, her weathered face betraying both skepticism and concern. "You're telling us that not only have we made first contact, but you're now mentally linked to an alien fugitive carrying classified information that could destabilize galactic civilization?" Ethan stood at the head of the table, acutely aware of Naira's presence beside him. Her crystalline form drew countless stares, but she maintained a dignified pose that somehow made the humans look underdressed in their formal attire. "That's a simplified version, yes," Ethan replied. "Though the term mentally linked doesn't quite capture the complexity of the quantum entanglement between our neural patterns. And this engagement," Dr. Thomas Wu, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, leaned forward. "It's irreversible?" "The archive bond is one of our most sacred traditions," Naira projected, her thoughts reaching everyone in the room. Several officials jumped, still unaccustomed to telepathic communication. Once knowledge is shared in this way, the connection cannot be undone without severe consequences for both parties. The room erupted in overlapping conversations until General Martinez raised her hand for silence. "The immediate concern is the fleet of advanced alien ships demanding we hand over both Dr. Parker and the archival guardian." As if on cue, the main display flickered, showing the imposing figure of High Inquisitor Vex of the Celestial Concordat. His crystalline form was darker, shot through with veins of what looked like liquid mercury, his three eyes swirling with stormy nebulae. "Your time grows short, humans," his thought voice boomed, carrying undertones of barely contained anger. "The fugitive Naira has stolen crucial information. Her bonding with your scientist cannot protect her from justice." Ethan felt Naira's anxiety through their link, along with something else, a fierce determination that surprised him. The knowledge she carried, he was beginning to understand fragments of it through their connection. It wasn't just scientific data or cultural archives. It was something far more significant. "High Inquisitor," Ethan stepped forward, drawing on a courage he didn't know he possessed. "By your own laws, the archive bond makes this a diplomatic matter. You can't separate us without risking the knowledge you're trying to protect." Vex's form darkened further. "You dare quote our laws to me, human?" the archive bond can be severed. The process may be unpleasant, but necessary. That would violate the seventh protocol of the Concordat, Naira projected firmly. No forced separation of bonded pairs, regardless of circumstance. Even you aren't above our most ancient laws, Inquisitor. Through their link, Ethan felt Naira's approval at his quick thinking, along with a growing warmth that had nothing to do with diplomatic maneuvering. He was starting to understand her, not just through shared knowledge, but through the subtle currents of emotion that passed between them. Perhaps, General Martinez interjected, we should discuss this situation more formally. Earth would be interested in establishing diplomatic relations with the Celestial Concordat. We could host negotiations here at the Helios Array. Vex's form shifted, patterns of light suggesting deep thought. You propose to make this a matter of interspecies diplomacy? It already is, Dr. Wu pointed out. The first official bond between a human and a member of your civilization? The implications are far-reaching. Hours later, as the diplomats worked out the details of the upcoming negotiations, Ethan and Naira stood in his private lab. The knowledge they shared hummed between them like a living thing, growing clearer with each passing moment. You're getting better at managing the flow, Naira observed, her crystalline features softening in what Ethan now recognized as a smile. Most non-concordat beings would be overwhelmed by now. I'm adapting, Ethan replied, both verbally and mentally. Though I still can't access most of the information. It's like trying to read a book in a language I'm only beginning to understand. That's by design. The full archive can only be accessed when both parties are in complete harmony. She paused, her energy coronas swirling with new patterns. Ethan, what you did in there, standing up to Vex, thank you. He turned to face her, struck again by her alien beauty. I'm starting to understand why you ran. The knowledge you carry, it's not just about the past, is it? It's about the future. Something that could change everything. Yes, she projected softly. And now you're part of it, for better or worse. Her third eye fixed on him with particular intensity. Does that frighten you? Ethan considered the question carefully. Through their bond, he could feel her genuine concern for his well-being, along with something deeper, something growing between them that transcended their accidental connection. Honestly? I'm terrified, he admitted. But also, excited. My whole life, I've looked to the stars, wondering what secrets they held. Now those secrets are literally in my head, along with. He paused, choosing his words carefully, along with someone who makes me question everything I thought I knew about the universe. Naira's form brightened, her energy coronas dancing with what he now recognized as joy. But before she could respond, the lab's sensors began blaring. Multiple ships were descending through the atmosphere, ships that weren't part of the Concordat fleet. The shadowed ones, Naira projected, her thought voice tight with fear. They've found us. Ethan, there's something I haven't told you about the archives, about why they're so desperate to claim them. As new alarms echoed through the Helios Array, Ethan realized that their problems were far from over. In fact, they were only beginning to understand the true scale of what they faced. But as he looked at Naira, feeling the strength of their growing bond, he knew one thing with certainty: whatever came next, they would face it together. The Helios Array's shields hummed with unprecedented power as the Shadowed One's ships descended through the auroral lights. Unlike the crystalline vessels of the Concordat, these ships absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating void-like silhouettes against the Antarctic sky. Ethan and Naira raced through the facility's corridors, their shared consciousness allowing them to move in perfect synchronization. Through their strengthening bond, Ethan could feel Naira's memories surfacing, fragments of a truth she'd been protecting. The archives, she projected as they reached the quantum core of the facility, they're not just historical records. They're the key to preventing a catastrophe that could unravel the very fabric of spacetime. The facility shuddered as the first energy pulses from the Shadowed One's ships struck the shields. General Martinez's voice crackled over the intercom. "Dr. Parker, multiple breaches detected in sectors 3 through 7. Whatever you're planning, do it fast." Naira placed her crystalline hands on the quantum core's interface, her form beginning to glow with increasing intensity. The Concordat believes they're protecting the galaxy by keeping the archives secure. But they don't understand, the knowledge was meant to be shared, to be united with other perspectives. Your human consciousness, it's the missing element we've been waiting for. Through their bond, Ethan suddenly understood. The fragments of knowledge they shared weren't random, they were pieces of a larger pattern, one that only became clear when viewed through both human and Concordat understanding simultaneously. "The Shadowed Ones," he said, both aloud and mentally, "they're not just after the archives. They're trying to prevent us from combining our knowledge." Yes, Naira's thought voice carried centuries of weight. They are the remnants of those who believe some knowledge is too dangerous to be shared. They've spent millennia destroying any civilization that came close to discovering what we now know together. The facility's lights flickered as another blast rocked the structure. Through their bond, Ethan could feel Naira's fear, not for herself, but for what would be lost if they failed. High Inquisitor Vex's voice thundered through their minds. "Guardian Naira, your actions risk everything our people have protected for generations. Surrender now, and the human facility will be spared." But Ethan had seen enough through their shared consciousness to know that surrender wasn't an option. The archives showed a pattern repeating throughout galaxy, civilizations rising, reaching a crucial point of discovery, and then mysteriously vanishing. The Shadowed Ones weren't preserving peace, they were preventing species from reaching their full potential. "We need to complete the merger," Naira projected, her three eyes fixed on Ethan with an intensity that made his heart race. "But it has to be voluntary, and it will change us both forever. The archive bond will become permanent, irreversible. Our minds, our beings, they'll be linked for eternity." Another explosion rocked the facility. Through the reinforced windows, Ethan could see the Shadowed One's forces engaging with the Concordat fleet, turning the Antarctic sky into a battlefield of light and darkness. If we don't do this, Ethan thought back, how many other civilizations will they destroy? How many species will never reach their potential? Naira's energy coronas swirled with complex emotions, hope, fear, and something deeper that resonated through their bond. "You would do this? Bind yourself forever to an alien fugitive for the sake of knowledge?" Ethan stepped closer, his hand reaching out to touch her crystalline form. The contact sent cascades of shared consciousness between them. "I'm a scientist, remember? The pursuit of knowledge is what I live for." He paused, then added, "And you're not just any alien fugitive. You're the most fascinating being I've ever met." A sound like crystalline wind chimes filled his mind, Naira's laughter, tinged with joy and affection. "For a species so young, humans have a remarkable capacity for adaptation. And you, Ethan Parker, are either the bravest or the most foolish human I've encountered." "Probably both," he smiled, then grew serious. "How do we do this?" Naira's form began to glow brighter, her energy coronas reaching out to envelop him. "Open your mind completely. Don't fight the flow of information. Let the archives merge with your consciousness as they have with mine." As their minds began to fully merge, the knowledge crashed over them like a tsunami. Ethan saw the true history of the galaxy, cycles of civilization rise and fall, the Shadowed One's secret manipulation, and the real purpose of the archives. They weren't just records, they were a key to unlocking humanity's next evolutionary step, a step that the Shadowed Ones had prevented countless species from taking. Through their now complete bond, Ethan and Naira became something new, neither fully human nor fully Concordat, but a bridge between species. The quantum core beneath their hands pulsed with new energy as their combined knowledge created something unprecedented. "Impossible." High Inquisitor Vex's thought voice boomed. The archives, they're transforming. The Shadowed One's ship suddenly pulled back, their sensors detecting the change. The knowledge Ethan and Naira now shared wasn't just about the past, it was a blueprint for the future, a way for species to evolve beyond physical limitations without losing their essential nature. As the combined fleet of Earth's Defenders and Concordat ships drove back the Shadowed Ones, Ethan and Naira stood in the center of their creation, their minds and beings intertwined in ways that defied conventional understanding. What happens now? Ethan asked, though through their bond, he could already sense the answer. Now, Naira projected, her thought voice carrying their shared purpose, we show both our peoples what's possible when knowledge is shared rather than hoarded. The real question is, are they ready for what we've become? As if in answer, the quantum core pulsed with new energy, and the true scope of their transformation began to manifest. The future of two civilizations hung in the balance, but through their bond, Ethan and Naira knew that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their story was no longer just about an accidental engagement, it had become something far more profound, a testament to the power of shared knowledge and the unexpected ways love could bridge the gaps between stars. The Antarctic Research Station had become the epicenter of a galactic revolution. In the week following Ethan and Naira's complete bond, representatives from both Earth and the celestial Concordat struggled to understand what they had become. Their merged consciousness had transformed the quantum core into something entirely new, a beacon that called to both humans and Concordat beings, promising evolution beyond their current limitations. Ethan stood before the facility's observation window, his transformed appearance reflecting the changes within. His skin now held a subtle crystalline quality, while Naira's form had taken on more human characteristics. They were neither one species nor the other, but something entirely new. The genetic modifications are spreading, Dr. Wu reported, examining his latest findings. Those exposed to the quantum core's emissions are showing signs of enhancement. Human neural capacity is increasing exponentially, while Concordat beings are developing new forms of emotional intelligence. Through their permanent bond, Ethan felt Naira's satisfaction mingled with concern. It's happening faster than we anticipated, she projected, her thoughts reaching everyone in the room. The knowledge was always meant to be a catalyst for controlled evolution, not a sudden transformation. High Inquisitor Vex, who had remained on Earth to monitor the situation, shifted his mercurial form anxiously. The Shadowed Ones will not allow this to continue. Their entire purpose has been to prevent exactly this kind of transformation. Perhaps that's exactly why it needs to happen, General Martinez interjected. She had begun showing signs of the change herself, subtle crystalline patterns forming beneath her skin. For too long, they've kept species isolated, prevented us from reaching our true potential. Ethan and Naira shared a moment of perfect understanding through their bond. The archives had shown them why the Shadowed Ones were so afraid. Evolution on this scale meant change, uncertainty, the possibility of failure. But it also meant hope, growth, and the chance for something greater than either civilization had achieved alone. A sudden alert blared through the facility. Dr. Wu's eyes widened as he checked the readings. Multiple temporal distortions detected in high orbit. The Shadowed Ones, they're bringing in reinforcements from other time periods. Through their shared consciousness, Ethan and Naira accessed the merged archives, understanding flowing between them like lightning. They're desperate, Ethan projected, his thoughts carrying the weight of centuries of knowledge. They're willing to risk temporal paradox to stop what we've started. Because they know they can't win any other way, Naira added, her energy coronas swirling with determination. The transformation has reached critical mass. Too many have already begun to change. The sky above the station turned violet as temporal rifts tore through reality. Ships from various eras of the Shadowed One's history emerged, ancient vessels powered by dark matter alongside futuristic craft that bent space itself. They're going to attempt a time purge, Vex announced, his form darkening with dread. They'll try to erase this entire timeline, undo everything that's happened here. Ethan felt Naira's mind merge more completely with his as they accessed the deepest layers of the archives. There was a way to stop this, but the cost would be enormous. They would have to use the quantum core to stabilize not just this timeline, but all potential timelines where their civilizations might meet and evolve. If we do this, Naira projected privately to Ethan, we'll be anchoring this change across all possible futures. There will be no going back, no possibility of returning to what we were. Ethan's response carried all the love and trust that had grown between them. We stopped being what we were the moment you crashed in Antarctica. Everything since then has been evolution. Through their bond, they began the process, reaching out to the quantum core with their merged consciousness. The facility hummed with power as they accessed knowledge that had been hidden for millennia. The archives had always been more than just information, they were a key to unlocking the quantum nature of consciousness itself. Around them, reality began to shift. The temporal rifts the Shadowed Ones had torn open became conduits for something else, the spread of their transformation across multiple timelines. Every possible Earth where humanity might encounter the Concordat was being seeded with the potential for change. The temporal distortions, they're stabilizing. Dr. Wu exclaimed, watching in awe as the violet sky began to clear. The Shadowed Ones' ships, they're being rewritten by the changes. Through their expanded awareness, Ethan and Naira could see it happening. The Shadowed Ones themselves were being transformed, their fear of change being replaced by understanding. In every timeline, in every possible future, the barriers between species were dissolving. High Inquisitor Vex watched as crystalline patterns began forming across his own form. So this is what the archives were truly meant for. Not just to record history, but to ensure it would unfold as it was meant to. General Martinez stepped forward, her partially transformed appearance a testament to humanity's potential. The question is, what do we do now? Our civilizations are changing in ways we can barely comprehend. Ethan and Naira shared a knowing look, their merged consciousness already seeing the path forward. We guide them, they projected in unison. The archives didn't just give us knowledge, they gave us understanding. The wisdom to know how to use what we've become. As the Antarctic sun set on a transformed Earth, Ethan and Naira stood together, their bond a bridge between what was and what could be. They had started as two beings from different worlds, brought together by chance and circumstance. Now they were the architects of a new future, one where the boundaries between species were just the beginning of what could be overcome. The Shadowed Ones had been right about one thing: knowledge was powerful, and change was dangerous. But they had been wrong about the solution. The answer wasn't to prevent evolution, but to guide it, to help both humans and Concordat beings grow together into something greater than either could have become alone. Through their bond, Ethan and Naira felt the weight of this responsibility, but also the joy of facing it together. Their accidental engagement had become a catalyst for universal change, proving that sometimes the most profound transformations come from the most unexpected connections. 1 year after the quantum convergence, as historians had begun calling it, the Helios Array had evolved far beyond its original purpose. The facility now served as an interstellar embassy, its transformed architecture reflecting the merged aesthetics of human and Concordat design. Crystalline spires rose from the Antarctic ice, while traditional Earth buildings pulsed with living light. Ethan stood in what had once been his simple research lab, now a vast chamber filled with hybrid technology. Through the panoramic windows, he watched ships from dozens of worlds arrive for the first Galactic Congress. His partially crystalline form caught the light, creating prismatic patterns that danced across the walls. Still adjusting to the view? Naira's thought voice carried warmth and amusement as she materialized beside him. Their bond had only grown stronger over the past year, their shared consciousness now so natural that neither could imagine existing separately. Just thinking about how much has changed, Ethan replied, both mentally and aloud. A year ago, I was studying bacterial samples from Europa. Now we're hosting representatives from 30 different species, all experiencing their own versions of the transformation. Through their bond, they shared memories of the tumultuous months following their merger. The change had spread across Earth and Concordat space like ripples in a quantum pond. Humans developed crystalline attributes and telepathic abilities, while Concordat beings gained deeper emotional understanding and physical adaptability. The former High Inquisitor Vex, now serving as Chief Ambassador of Integration, entered the chamber. His once mercurial form had softened, showing signs of human influence. The first wave of hybrid children are showing remarkable abilities, he reported. They're born with full access to the archives, yet they create new knowledge we never imagined possible. The archives were never meant to be static, Naira projected, her energy coronas swirling with pride. They're growing, evolving with each new perspective added. Every species that joins the convergence brings new insights, new possibilities. A gentle alert chimed through the facility. Dr. Wu, his appearance now a unique blend of human and crystalline characteristics, appeared on the holoscreen. "You'll want to see this," he said, excitement clear in both his voice and projected thoughts. "The long-range sensors have detected something remarkable." The main display activated, showing a distant sector of space. There, visible only through their most advanced instruments, was evidence of what they had theorized but never confirmed, another universe pressing against the boundaries of their own, its physical laws subtly different yet complementary. "The children called it first," Dr. Wu continued. "They said they could feel it in the archives, other realities where evolution took different paths. The Shadowed Ones didn't just try to prevent change within our universe, they were trying to prevent contact between universes." Ethan and Naira shared a moment of perfect understanding. The archives hadn't just been about preserving knowledge or guiding evolution. They were a key to something far greater, the ability to bridge realities, to expand consciousness beyond the limits of any single universe. Through their bond, they accessed the deepest layers of the archives, where the newest information was taking shape. The hybrid children were right, their universe was just one of many, and the convergence was meant to prepare them for contact with others. "That's why the Shadowed Ones were so afraid," Ethan projected, the realization flowing through their shared consciousness. They knew that once species started combining their knowledge and abilities, it would lead to this, the discovery of other realities, other forms of existence. General Martinez, now Director of Interspecies Relations, joined them in the chamber. The crystalline patterns beneath her skin glowed with purpose. "The question is, are we ready for this next step? Our civilizations are still adjusting to the changes we've already experienced." Naira's form brightened with conviction. "We're ready precisely because we've learned to change, to adapt, to combine our strengths. The archives showed us that isolation leads to stagnation. It's in reaching out, in connecting with others, that we grow." Through their bond, Ethan felt the truth of her words. Their accidental engagement had proven that the most profound discoveries come from unexpected connections. Every civilization that had joined the convergence had brought its own unique perspective, its own piece of the universal puzzle. The chamber filled with representatives from Earth and Concordat space, their transformed appearances a testament to how far they'd come. Humans with crystalline attributes stood alongside Concordat beings showing human characteristics, while hybrid children played with reality in ways that defied traditional physics. "We started this journey trying to protect knowledge," Vex observed, his form shifting with new patterns of understanding. "We never imagined it would lead us to create entirely new forms of it." Ethan and Naira moved to the center of the chamber, their merged consciousness reaching out to connect with everyone present. Through their bond, they shared a vision of what was to come, not just the merger of species or civilizations, but the gentle collision of universes, each bringing new possibilities, new forms of existence to explore. "When you crashed in Antarctica," Ethan projected to Naira privately, "did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Her response carried all the love and wonder that had grown between them. "I was running away from those who feared change. Instead, I found someone who embraced it." Maybe that's the real lesson of the archives, that love, in all its forms, is the force that drives evolution. Above them, the Antarctic aurora danced with new colors as the first signals from the other universe became stronger. Their story had started with an accidental engagement between two beings from different worlds. It had evolved into a transformation that spanned not just their civilizations, but the very nature of reality itself. Yet at its heart, it remained a love story, proof that when two beings choose to face the unknown together, there's no limit to what they might become. As representatives from Earth and the Concordat prepared to reach out to another universe, Ethan and Naira stood united, their bond a testament to the power of unexpected connections and the infinite possibilities that arise when different worlds come together. The archives, ever growing, recorded this moment as they had recorded all others. But now they didn't just preserve knowledge, they pointed the way forward, showing all who access them that the greatest discoveries come not from hiding what we know, but from sharing it with others who see the universe through different eyes. And in the quantum core of the Helios array, where their journey had begun, new patterns were forming, new possibilities taking shape. The next chapter of their story was just beginning, and it promised to be more extraordinary than anything they could have imagined alone.